Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to our third day of our virtual career fair. And glad to have you back again. We had earlier today, we had a talk. This will be our third day and the final day. We will have another speaker who is going to talk to us about trends of the future work. Let me introduce to you, he's actually from PersolKelly. He is the head of strategic client management and the associate director for the specialized contracting division. His name is Ken. Hi, Ken. Hi, Kenton.
Hello everyone.
Hi. All right, so I'm gonna stop my screen right now so you can start your presentation.
Okay, sure. Okay, so good afternoon everyone. Thanks for taking your time to attend this webinar. So the topic that I will be touching on today will be the trends of the future workforce. Okay, so today I will be sharing on some insights on some of the trends of future workforce, which will include future trend, future talent, as well as future skills. Okay, before we get started, let me give a brief introduction about myself. So my name is Ken, and I have been in the recruitment industry for the past 14 years. I'm currently the head of strategic client management at PersolKelly. So another of my role is that I'm also managing the specialized contracting divisions, where we provide outsourced contingent contractors in the IT, engineering, and healthcare industries. So some background about our company, PersolKelly. So we are a joint venture established in 2016 between Persol Holdings, which is the world's 7th largest recruitment firm, and Kelly Services, which is the world's 8th largest recruitment firm. So in order to cater to the rising workforce employment needs of the emerging Asia Pacific market. So we are headquartered in Singapore, and PersolKelly actually spans across 50 offices around 13 countries in the Asia Pacific region. Right. And as I mentioned, Singapore is the regional HQ for APAC, and we have more than 400 professionals, employees based locally in our office. And as a group, we manage more than 21,000 contingent workers annually, and we have placed more than 2,000 permanent employees for our clients back in 2020 itself. Right. So before zooming into the future workforce topic, let me share on some keywords around the corner about the future. So keywords in 2030 will include automation, big data, AI, robotics, fintech, and machine learning. So these keywords to me are just one big term, which is not human. So while it's estimated by McKinsey that automation could replace 45% of activities currently carried out by humans, actually only 5% of the jobs can be completely automated by technology. So here are some statistics from PwC on the workforce of the future. So 60% of the respondents actually think that only few people will have stable or long-term employment in the future. And about 74% of the respondents are ready to learn new skills or retrain to remain employable in the future. And 73% of the respondents actually think that technology can never replace the human mind. Right, so next we will start to zoom into the first topic, which is future trend. So right now we are all on a high-speed railway, okay? And COVID has given us an insight that even the trends that we are talking about right now can be transformed again later, and in maybe just 1 year's time. So some of you may not be able to relate to the trends that I'm going to talk about right away, but given the rapidly changing world that we are in right now, there may be some useful cases for you to think further. Right. So firstly, I'll talk about the growth of the gig economy. So the growth of the gig economy has resulted in an increase in terms of self-employment and contingent or agency workers. So gig economy actually refers to the trend of hiring contractors or freelancers instead of traditional full-time workers. So currently in the Asia Pacific region, right, we are seeing a rise in terms of the expansion of contingent worker. So 84% of talent managers are actually employing remote talent via the gig economy, which is outsourced contractors. So this actually reflects a larger and more global trend with many of the world's company employing a growing number of external talent, be it contractors, consultants, or freelancers. So I'll quote you an example. So for Google, right, they employ 53% of their talent externally, which means to say only 47% of their employees are internal. So that means that only less than half of Google's employees are actually in-house. So the economic uncertainty of this pandemic has caused many workers to lose their jobs and be exposed and expose some others to non-standard work models. So for example, the Gartner analysis shows that organizations will continue to expand their use of contingent workers to maintain more flexibility in their workforce management post-COVID-19. And many organizations will also consider introducing other job models that they have seen during the pandemic. So for example, such as talent sharing or 80% pay for 80% work. And research has also shown that 32% of organizations are replacing full-time employees with contingent workers as a cost-saving measure. So the gig economy has in fact been popular in Singapore itself for some years now, even before the pandemic. So many people here have turned to freelance work while waiting for a permanent employment or to use it to supplement their income while dabbling in some ventures. So for example, in education or entrepreneurship. So the gig economy will provide an alternative source of income for those that are less suited for full-time work. So it's not just in Singapore, around the world it's the same situation. The Forbes actually reports that 36% of all the Americans engage in some form of flexible work, and companies now are also hiring full-time part-timers to keep their labor costs down. Yeah. So in the Asia Pacific region, just last year alone, back in 2020, 81 million jobs were lost due to the pandemic. So the unemployment rate in many countries have rose from a single digit to double digit, but it still remains single digit for Singapore. So the gig economy, meanwhile provided lifelines, keeping many afloat during this tough period. So during the circuit breaker period, right, a lot of workers from the travel industry, the tourism industry, actually turned to food delivery gig jobs to boost their income. So take for example, Grab's net revenue actually grew by 70% back in last year, 2020. This is fueled by a surge in terms of its food delivery business. The tech giant is even bringing forward its IPO goals to this year itself. So that's not a bad thing if the company goes on to create more high-value jobs for Singaporeans. Right. So hiring on-demand staff is like having a pool of employees on standby, those who are ready and willing to work whenever you need them. So companies who provide on-demand staffing sees this type of employment process as the future in creating and fulfilling a shift-led workforce. They aim to empower workers by offering them more employment opportunities and flexibility in their scheduling. Yeah, so we note that on-demand staffing is going mainstream. So this is as seen in the example that I'm going to show you, which is the Marks and Spencer case. So in the UK, Marks and Spencer actually employed a staggering 20,000 flexible workers across quarter 4 in 2018. That that is almost a quarter additional staff to the permanent employees that it already had at that point of time. So for Marks and Spencer, they have refocused on who the store associate of today needs to be by placing an emphasis on recruiting hardworking, customer-focused people over those with actual retail experience. Then again, there may be some differences among different businesses. Even within the retail market, there is a different unique positioning and talent strategy. However, there's one thing that's all in common, that is in general, the human option for their own lifestyle is changing. So rather than looking at just their productivity, or whether or not if there is any data to justify the company's ROI, the main focus that companies will be looking at will be what type of employment style that the future population will be opting for. So the gig job, while dreaded by some, may be actually a dream job by some other people who desire to have the flexibility. That's because workers, right, they can devote more time to their young children or older parents and not waste money on daycare or elderly support if they were to take up a gig job that offers them flexibility. Because in a non-gig world, these workers will then have to be confined to fixed jobs such as cashiers and security staff or cleaners with very long working hours and potentially no lower pay or no work at all. And also due to the demographic change, right? Millennials nowadays wants to be their own boss and control their schedule and arrange for work life just like they do with their personal life with apps on their smartphones. Right? So the next future trend that I'll be touching on is the slash or unbundled jobs. This is whereby the jobs are increasingly being unbundled, which means that there is a separation of tasks usually done by just one employee. So having said that, this is not to say that the workers are getting less capable. On the contrary, companies can have access to super skilled employees to perform specific tasks. So in the mass economy, each job used to be a bundle. So what do I mean by a bundle? So meaning to say each job, they come with money, salary, health care, pension, etc. as a whole compensation package. And employees will be very focused on the whole package, even though when they don't like the job or they don't find the job fulfilling or interesting, but they think that they're well compensated. But in the current society or situation, jobs have been progressively being unbundled. So with the globalization and rise of automation, jobs are less likely to come with a nice bargain, as they may involve only a particular task or a short period of time involvement. So there are pros and cons to these unbundled jobs. So for companies, right, costs may be saved at some point because less compensation elements is being offered to the employee. But then again, this may also result in the end of loyalty, because and this makes it even harder for companies to hire, because not only because of the compensation may not be attractive, it's also about the talent themselves having this trend of walking towards to become a slash for better management of their time. So therefore, what is important is for employer, right? The employer brand then becomes another important element to attract the job seekers who nowadays behave more like consumers of jobs. So companies will need to determine on what sort of brand they want to present to these future workforce. Right, and next I will touch on our second topic, which is the future talent. Right, and in a recent McKinsey global survey, 87% of the leaders actually acknowledge that there are skills gaps in their workforce. And the COVID-19 crisis only made this issue more urgent. So from mastering new technologies at home to remotely managing sales relationship or virtually collaborating with colleagues, the need for upskilling of employees is only increasing. So as such, the future talent will need to be a hybrid model, whereby the most valuable employees, right, they are interdisciplinary. So whereby a T-shaped person is a subject matter expert in at least one area and knowledgeable or skilled in several other aspects. So to further define a T-shaped person, so a T-shaped person is described as someone who has a specialized skill in one area, which is symbolized by the vertical stroke, and a general ability to collaborate in other areas, which is symbolized by the horizontal bar. So in other words, the T-shaped employees actually excel in their core responsibility, but then again, at the same time, they are also able to perform other tasks efficiently. So in addition to the technical skills, like proficiency in programming or design expertise, T-shaped people also possess the cognitive skills like emotional intelligence or creativity. So you can become more T-shaped by cross-training in areas adjacent to your own area of deep expertise. And by gaining familiarity and fluency in the adjacent topics, you will gain the breadth and eventually the depth in those same area. So the most in-demand employees of tomorrow are in fact those with the T-shaped expertise, because they have the ability to value add across various functions of the organization. And these T-shaped professionals are in high demand for their ability to innovate, build relationship, and strengthen their organization. And this is especially important right now in terms of the fact that everybody is working remotely. So the skill sets in terms of collaboration is placed on a greater emphasis. So even our government have recently called for a change in terms of our educational system into a blended learning one. So this new system, right, the blended learning system, is to break down the academic silos and then encourage a more broader multidisciplinary approach to learning. So this broad-based education in schools actually facilitate the students' development of expertise in one subject area and then knowledge in several others, which makes them the new generation of T-shaped talent. Right. So the next group of future talent will be the digital natives. So as the term suggests, digital natives describe a young person who has grown up in the digital age, in close contact with computers, internet, video game console, mobile phone, social media, and tablets. So they are distinguished from the digital immigrants who came into age of a world dominated by print, by television, and they only acquired familiarity with digital system when they enter adulthood. So digital natives are people who grew up without ever knowing a time before the internet. And this group of young people, right, they are already having significant impact on businesses nowadays. And they are advancing a shift in terms of the work culture and norms. So as companies bring on these younger workers who roughly correspond to the late millennial generation and the subsequent generation Z, they must create a work environment that support both their unique needs and also allow process and culture to adapt easily to the new and emerging technologies. Okay, so like I mentioned, this group of digital natives, right, it corresponds with the Generation Z. So Generation Z generally are people who are born between 1995 to 2010. So this group of people are sometimes described as the distinct true digital natives or digital integrator. And these terms are used to describe the digital generation gap in terms of technological use among people who was born before the generation Y. And digital natives actually grew up in a technology-driven world, having a mobile phone or tablet even before they start going to school. And their social network is developed at the same time as their social media network. Digital natives, they are born in the era of smartphones and they are used to having multiple devices at one time. So the result is they have a much shorter attention span. and they are extremely comfortable with multitasking, and they think that they think that they are not efficient if they are not able to multitask. So this group of digital natives, they are very creative, they are innovative, and they are entrepreneurial. So according to a study done, 55% of Generation Z globally strive to own their own business. And keep in mind that the youngest member of Generation Z is only 11 years old. So the number is very much likely to increase. And this group of new generation, they are incredibly self-reliant, they are resourceful, they are pragmatic. There is a lot of rich information and content on the web, and they know how to find it quickly. So they don't feel that they need to take a back seat to somebody else just because that person has more experience than them. And this group of people, they usually thirst for guidance in terms of helping them to digest the information that they have versus just feeding them the information, because they might have already acquired the certain level of information before you feed them. And digital natives, they tend to be more social, and they are more willing to exchange ideas. They enjoy collaboration so that because they are used to socializing in the social media world. So the workspace that digital natives will be looking for will also become a consideration point that they will value. So whether they decide to join a company or not will depend on whether the organization that they work for is socially engaged, whether they have adopted CSR, and also with the increasing levels of anxiety and depression among youth nowadays, digital natives are seeking healthy ways to manage the stress and avoid burnout. So this corresponds with the fact that 70% will consider health benefit as a very important factor when evaluating a new job. So next, I will touch on our third topic, which is future talent. So future skills, I'm sorry. So instead of talking about just generic digital skills or highly technical skills, or literally just getting a master's in AI or machine learning, the critical future skills that we are talking about here also includes those very human and people soft skills. So although it is a future, the topic for today is future, but the skills, in fact, we have been talking about them for many years right now. So as the Singapore job market continues to evolve to adapt to the impact of COVID-19 on the workplace, more employers, right, they require their workers to have adaptive skills as well as digital skills to enable them to work remotely in the new environment. So what are the critical core skills? So the Singapore economy and business environment are transforming very rapidly right now. And there's also, coupled with the fact that there is also the increasing digitalization and adoption of technology at the workplace. So as such, there's a need to redefine the skill sets, the key skill sets to keep up with the future economy, which includes an increased emphasis on the soft skills as part of the future work in the digital era. So back in 2019 August, Skills Future Singapore actually embarked on a review of the previous generic skills competencies to formulate a new set of skill sets, which they call critical core skills. This comprises of 16 competency grouped into 3 clusters of skills that workplaces deem most essential. They are thinking critically, interacting with others, and staying relevant. So what are the key skills that are needed to thrive, be it in a growing economy or a sluggish economy? In recent years, there has been an increase in terms of soft skills as part of the future work in the digital era. So first, I'll talk about thinking critically. So these are the cognitive skills that are needed to think broadly and creatively, to see the connection and opportunity in the midst of change. So cognitive skills, right, they are actually the root of technical skills development and progression. So meaning to say, even if you have the technical skills or that you acquire, without the cognitive skills, you will not be able to progress. So next important skills cluster will be interacting with others. So This may sound simple, but this is a skill set that many people would actually need to acquire and pick up, because learning from other people is one of the most effective ways to acquire new skills and ideas. So being effective at interacting with others means that you are able to think about the needs of others, as well as being able to exchange ideas and then build a shared understanding of a problem or a situation. So increasingly, people need to be able to combine their technical skills with those of others in order to succeed together. So the third cluster will be staying relevant. So this means that you have to manage yourself effectively, paying very close attention to the trends impacting the workplace, and then have a direction and motivation for technical skills development. So in terms of development of the critical skills, before the pandemic, critical roles, right, they were viewed as roles with critical skills, or the capability and organization needed to meet its strategic goals. But nowadays, right now, employers are realizing that there is another category of critical roles, which are roles that are critical to the success of essential workflows of the company. So meaning to say, we should focus less on the role itself and more on the skills that is needed to drive the organization's competitive advantage and the workflows. So the trends driven by the current COVID-19 situation, example, remote work, digital transformation, gig work, are all accelerating the shift in terms of how companies plan their workforce. So as the current disruption resets many business models and objectives, the skills that are needed to deliver business performance is more likely to change radically. So I'm trying to say is to develop critical skills that can a senior accountant and my next progression is finance manager. I'll just focus on what are the skills that I need to grow to a finance manager, to promote to a finance manager. But just rather than focusing on the next specific roles, you need to develop the critical skills that can open up multiple opportunity rather than just the career progression, right? So I'll quote another example. So for example, the top 20 skills, right, specified for open IT roles at big tech companies like Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google are on average 40% different than the same roles that an average organization advertise. So meaning to say, this group of tech giants, right, they are building a different IT workforces than your average company by building a talent pool with specific skill set that are critical to their own organization's workflow. So what are the skills that employers are looking for? So as the Singapore job markets continues to evolve and adapt due to the impact of COVID-19 on the workplace, more employers require workers to have adaptive skills as well as digital skills to work remotely in the new environment. So the NTUC Learning Hub Employer Skills Survey has reported that effective communication helps to close the information gaps in times of uncertainty like the current one we are facing, to establish clear expectation and to align purpose among employees. That is why effective communication was voted the most sought after skills by 68% of employers in 2021 versus only 48% in 2020. So overall, while the digital skills are still important and voted by many employers, adaptive skills are the ones that have topped the list of competencies which are business necessities, while having increased in terms of its importance. That is why teamwork is ranked second most important skill, followed by leadership, negotiation and influencing skill, and then digital marketing. So teamwork and decisive leadership are also key to navigating in the new environment that we are in. So in addition, as company push for digitalization to attract and retain consumers online, digital marketing therefore remains a top skill. So to future-proof one's employability, it's important to possess a hybrid of the above mentioned skills, which is adaptive and digital skills. So to conclude, even though there are plenty of opportunities, it doesn't mean that the shift is easy. Some people will lose their jobs. Training will take time. Even for people who manage to make the shift, their income may be lower than before, at least for a while. While it can take time to learn new skills or to start a business, it's those employees who can adapt fast that may have new opportunities that they have never imagined before. So we need to come together as a workforce to collaborate and create better impacts. I hope that today's future workforce sharing has given you some insights in achieving that. Thank you for your time.
Hi, thank you so much. Thanks, Ken, for sharing. That's very nice information. I think it's relevant nowadays, right? That we'd like to equip ourselves with the relevant skills. And my favorite part that you said over there is like when you mentioned that what trends or what maybe the trend today might be no longer trend to tomorrow. So best is always to update yourself with the right skills to remain competitive in the market. Okay, and having said about the skills, just to remind everyone that we are also partner with Future Learn, who is also offering free courses. If you have time and if you're willing to update your skills, you can always reach out to them to give you courses that are given, or they can also provide you with the certifications on the courses. Okay, so having said, I'd like to open the floor for the question and answers.
Yeah, I see that there's a few questions coming
There are a lot,
in.
yeah.
Right. Okay. So one of the question is, which industries are the in-demand jobs going to be in? Okay, so I would think that the industry that has the most demand of jobs will be in the finance sector, information and communication and technology sector, the ICT sector, healthcare sector, and manufacturing sector. These are the main four sectors that will have the most highest demand of jobs. So why is that so? Because so when we talk about the finance sector, right, job growth in the finance sector has always been growing for the past 5 years, and the industry actually continues to add in new jobs last year itself, despite the COVID pandemic. So the MAS has also mentioned that 6,500 positions will be created in the banking and finance sector in 2020. So as for the ICT sector, I think is mainly because of the Singapore's push for digitalization. So, and that's why there's a huge availability of jobs in this sector, especially in cybersecurity, digital marketing, data analytics. So the pandemic has increased the digitalization for many industries. So even the hawkers in the hawker center and seniors, the more mature population, they are moving to cashless payments. And that is why the digital solutions and ICT sector, I think, is going to expand. So for healthcare sector, it did well last year. It's expected to continue doing well in 2020, especially with the vaccine distribution as the key factor driving the optimism. And even without the pandemic, the healthcare sector was already set to grow and expand because of the aging population in Singapore itself. And lastly, when I mentioned manufacturing, right? So many people may not think of Singapore as a manufacturing hub, but Singapore does have the significant manufacturing capability. So for example, in advanced manufacturing. So in fact, manufacturing is Singapore's largest contributor to our GDP. And also right now, the situation is this manufacturing sector is further boosted by biomedical and electronics manufacturing. So that is why I would say that manufacturing sector is projected to continue growing, especially for electronics and precision engineering due to the strong semiconductor demand for the 5G market. right? So let me take a look at the next question. Okay, there's one question. How do we prove or highlight the soft skills in the resume? Okay, so in the resume, right, a lot of people tend to just put down the responsibility in terms of their job scope, what they have done. But it will be good. So, for example, you have managed certain project in your previous company. So it will be good to highlight the challenges that you met with during the course of the project, and how you managed to overcome it. So this will allow you to be able to illustrate your soft skills. For example, you are able to work in the team to find a solution. It means that you are a team player. You can collaborate. You can have teamwork, communication skills, and also so the challenges and how you overcome it can also highlight the fact that you have tenacity and you do not give up in face of challenges. So all these are very strong skill sets, which is hard to just highlight saying that, oh, I am a tenacious person, I am a strong-willed person, without taking reference to anything. So what I suggest is for your job scope, apart from your job scope, after that you can add on the highlights, the highlights of how you overcome or how you approach your work, rather than just stating the A to Z of what you have been doing, right? Okay, so another question is, are generalists or specialists more in demand in the future workforce? I think the answer is in my presentation just now. So I would say previously, maybe about 5 to 10 years ago, the specialists, right, they are highly in demand. Okay, but we have seen in terms of the shift, in terms of the employer's mindset, in terms of hiring of their workforce, right? So this is what I've just mentioned about the T-shaped skills. So in today's context, it's no longer enough to be just a generalist. Means you know a bit about everything, but you're not specialized in anything, or you are specialized in just one thing, and all the other areas adjacent to your area of expertise, right? You have no knowledge. So meaning to say, I would say both are equally important, but the most important is to have a hybrid between a generalist and a specialist kind of skill sets, right? Well, another question is, how do we know if freelancing will be right for us to pursue? Any tips to succeed in the gig economy? Okay, so in terms of whether the freelancing will be right for you, I think the best person to answer this question will be yourself. Actually, it depends on, because freelancing there's a different variation. Some freelancing is you just work on the weekend. So some freelancing is you work the a certain period every day, but it's just for maybe 3 to 4 hours. So it actually depends on your personal how to say your personal commitment level. So so it depends on your personal commitment level. So that will determine which type of freelancing work that you would like to engage in. And in terms of any tips to succeed in the gig economy, uh, when you say, don't take it as just oh, this is just a contract job. I do my work, I get it, you doing your gig work, right? You are a valuable employee, valuable worker. So meaning to say, you give your heart and soul work, right? So because we have seen a lot of contract positions, right? They easily come to permanent, right? So there's one is maybe the contract position is actually a permanent role. It's just that the employer doesn't want to commit on a permanent headcount first. So the employer or the company will apply contract, and if the performance is good, and then they will convert to permanent. Okay. Another case is there is no opening for a permanent job. This is purely a contract job, but because of your performance during your gig work or your capability, sometimes I've seen my clients the commitment level and the capability during the gig job. Yeah, so my advice is to succeed in the gig economy. Just approach every gig job as with your heart and soul and commitment level. Yeah. Okay, there's one interesting question. Why are jobs like admin and receptionist outsourced to agencies? Okay, so when companies they decide which function to outsource, right? It's usually it's based on the ease of outsourcing, or rather what type of job function can be easily outsourced. So for example, you can't, there are some type of jobs that you can't outsource, and it has to be in-house. So for admin job, right, because admin is a very broad category of a job. So when you mention admin, I will just assume it's just doing the administrative back-end administrative work. So these type of jobs, firstly, the administrative jobs, right? It doesn't require specific training or coaching if it's just a normal administrative jobs. So that is why it's easy to outsource, right? So second reason is maybe because some administrative tasks is it can be seasonal. So meaning to say in Q1 or Q4, I have a particular in terms of the admin work that I need to do for my company. But in Q2 and Q3, maybe I don't have the need. So I don't need to hire someone permanent to as a permanent headcount to do the admin job. So that's why I can outsource to agency. So as and when I need, I will just reach out to the agency to profile me suitable stuff for the administrative part. And I think it's quite a similar reason for receptionists. So, but for receptionists, definitely you will need the receptionist full time every day on the job on the receptionist desk itself. So, firstly, why receptionist is being outsourced is because, again, it doesn't require in-depth training or coaching. Okay. Secondly, why they are outsourced to agencies is because, okay, so for example, if the receptionist is my in-house staff, my permanent employee, right? So, permanent employee, they are entitled to benefits like medical leave and annual leave. So if the receptionist happen to be away for holiday and clear 7 days of their annual leave, then the receptionist desk will be empty for one whole week, and there will be no one answering the phone. So, but when you outsource to an agency, right? So when you outsource to an agency, the certain agencies they will promise you backfilling. So meaning to say you're not just outsourcing the the agency is not just outsourcing a person to you. The agency is outsourcing is taking over the entire receptionist role. So meaning to say if they will guarantee you that every day there will be a receptionist at your receptionist desk. So if the usual receptionist is away, I will have a backup on that day. So this is to ensure continuation of the receptionist service every day to the company. That is why they are being outsourced to the agency, in my opinion.
All right. While Ken is still looking for some of the questions that you have online, right? I'd like to, because I saw there's another one question over there asking where can they see the recording if they missed the previous topic. Yeah. Yep. Stephen, you can always go to our virtual career fair website. All of the sessions that we had, even for the previous days, will all be posted in our website starting tomorrow. So yeah, you can always visit us there. Back to you, Ken.
Yeah. Uh, there's another question. Will paper qualification be still be the number one consideration for employers in the future workplace? I think the simple answer is no. It will, in my opinion, it will not be the number one consideration for employers in the future workplace. So, meaning to say, it also depends on the job vacancy because for certain specific roles, right? So for example, to be an accountant, you need to have a degree in accountancy. So yeah, that would not change. So when you talk about paper qualification, it depends on the job. So if the job itself, right, is not that specialized, for example, in legal or in accounting, right? I would think that the paper qualification will not be the number one consideration. So, or rather, what employers, right, for the future workplace, what they look for is your previous experience, and typically, employers they do not like rolling stones. So, meaning to say, if you in your past 5 companies you only stayed for 3 to 6 months, no matter how big, how good your paper qualification is, I think your chances will be quite slim, right? So they would most probably look at your previous experience and how you have contributed to your previous employment, and and maybe the specific projects that you have taken on in your previous employment. And of course, important thing is during the interview process itself, how you are able to convince your future employer that you are able to value add to them using your previous experience and your skill sets, right? So I think a lot of job applicants I've come across, I think they made the same mistake in saying like, so during the interview they will say things like, oh, I don't mind to give this position a try. You know what I mean? So they will say, okay, I don't mind to give it a try. But the fact is, you need to understand, it's not the employer that needs to give you a try. You need to convince the potential employer why he or she should hire you. So I think it's the mindset issue, and during the interview process, right? I think very much is you need to research on the company background, if possible, the company culture, and also the background of the interviewer who is interviewing you. And then you need to maybe also understand the job requirements, and then look at your own resume and experience to see how you can relate your past experience to what the future employer is looking for. So if you are able to do all this, I think paper qualification will not be a key criteria in that aspect. There's one question. If I take up freelancing job while looking for a full-time one, will the employer ignore my freelance experience or take it as a gap? How do I make the experience stand out? So okay, I mean my immediate answer will be no. As in the employer will not ignore your freelance experience. So that is why we encourage, because a lot of job applicants that we speak to, right? Their immediate their immediate desire is to have a permanent employment, because there is the stigma that permanent employment offers stability, right? But of course, the rise of the gig economy, there are some people specifically looking at gig jobs. So for those that are looking for permanent employment, right, we'll advise them in the meanwhile, while looking for a permanent job, take up a contract job or a freelancing job. Okay, why is that so? Because um, if you are out of the employment market for an extended uh, period of time without a proper explanation, uh, then your employability will be deemed as lower for your future employers. So, meaning to say, if you have been out of job for 2 to 3 years without a job, then the future employer will think, what I mean, you have been out of the working society for so long, so how would you be able to phase in back to the working society, and what will be your relevancy in terms of today's working society? So that is why we have offered advice to a lot of job applicants, so at least they keep themselves still in the working society while looking for a full-time job, right? And the gig jobs or the contract positions that they take on can in fact it actually value adds to their resume, because the contract positions that they take on, right, it actually gives them exposure to different companies, different way of working, and different kind of job scopes. So that is also one of the reason why nowadays the young people, right, they prefer gig job rather than permanent job. So because permanent job, if you take up a permanent job and you stay for 5 to 10 years, so you have only worked in one company and exposed to one culture, whereby if you take on different gig roles, right, it gives you exposure to different type of environment, different demographic, different working culture. So it makes you a more, wholesome or comprehensive kind of experience. So yeah, so my quick answer is you should take up freelancing job while looking for a full-time one, right? Right. So another question is how important is upskilling for workers? Should the focus be on building an area of specialization? Upskilling, okay, my immediate answer will be is very important. Okay, so because we cannot emphasize enough on the importance of upskilling and reskilling. So surveys have also shown that 9 out of 10 of those who are currently employed in Singapore believe that they will need to reskill or upskill to stay competitive in the post-pandemic world. And a lot of employers are actually sending their employees for upskilling and reskilling during this period, because they understand the importance. So both the employer and employee understand the importance, because it is really very important to keep yourself relevant and upgraded. And given the current situation, it may not be easy to land yourself a job if you remain stagnant, right? And like I mentioned, employers nowadays, they prefer candidates who can perform multiple job tasks, right? So yeah, so in terms of should the focus be on building an area of specialization? Yeah, my answer is similar to the previous question, which is with reference to my presentation. You should be a T-shaped person, whereby you have a certain area of specialization, but it's also knowledgeable in different other areas, right?
All right, great. Unfortunately, we don't have much time for a lot of questions, but maybe let's take one more question, Ken, and then we can wrap up the session.
Okay, sure, sure. Let me see. Okay, so there is this question. What is a good mindset to adopt when we approach career planning? So, okay, so when you talk about career planning, is a very broad topic, but generally I will say a few key things. First, you need to have a growth mindset. So, meaning to say, in layman terms, you need to be positive, right? So you need to see opportunities as growth, even when the responsibility or task given to you is challenging. So the difference between someone with a growth mindset, someone who is positive, and someone who is negative will be, when given a task, the one who is negative will say, "Oh no, I have to, OT." additional responsibility to your daily job scope, right? So that is the growth mindset I'm talking about. And sometimes when bosses task you with new responsibility or added responsibility, sometimes it's their way of testing you to see if you are up to it for your next career move, to see if you are ready. So sometimes it's a test, so you need to be positive and you need to have the growth mindset to want to continue to learn, to grow from your current role. And I think the next thing is you need to set both short-term and long-term goals in your career, right? So you are where you are right now, so you need to know where exactly you want to be, where exactly you want to go in what you want to learn in the next 1 year, where you want to be in the next 3 years. So with a specific goal set out, then you will know what you need to do to plan to move towards it. Because if you don't have a goal, then you are sort of like someone who is like stuck in the mud and you don't know how to move forward or move backward. So I think long-term and short-term goals are very important, right? And lastly, in terms of career planning, very important will be to take action and implement your plans. Because many a times I have seen many employees saying that, I want to be a manager in 3 years' time. I want to be a director in 5 years' time. I want to be promoted by the end of this year. This is my goal. This is what I want. But they are only paying lip service, So because after telling me their goals, right, I don't see any change in terms of the day-to-day work that they do. If there is, improvement areas, I don't see the conscientious, proactive mindset or mentality to want to improve, to want to be better, to want to grow to where they want to be in the 3 to 5 years time. So a lot of people have a lot of big goals, but it's the action taking part that is really difficult to do. So I would say in terms of career planning, these are the few things that will be essential and critical, right?
Yeah, that's definitely true, Ken, right? I totally agree that, planning and making a goal and being positive of how you want to grow and how do you want to prosper and, make a future career as well is very important. And unfortunately, I know we have a lot of questions arising even now, right? But we don't have much of a time to answer all of those. I'm so sorry for all of you out there. But nothing to worry. Like I mentioned earlier, we still have the VCF or the Virtual Career Fair website live until end of this month. Tomorrow we're gonna start the postings for all of those webinars that you have probably missed on the previous day. So you can always go back and try to listen back them again. And also, until now, we still have the career coaches live. Just go to our website. The virtual career fair, you can even ask directly to them and they can interact with you live on the spot. Okay, so do you have any final statement for those people out there watching us right now, Ken, before we wrap up?
Yeah. So what I want to say is the mindset determines your action, and having having a growth mindset, a positive mindset is the utmost important in no matter what you do. Yeah. So that's my final statement that I want to put across.
Yes, definitely. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for being with us now. Thank you so much, Ken, for your sparing your time. And hope everyone is having a good time listening. You all have a great day. I'm sad to
Thank
say
you.
that this will be the last virtual, live stream for this season, but hopefully we're going to see you on the next chapter. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.